Hello, I'm Jeremy Gray, and this is the first ever Kevin Wilson Show. On today's show, we'll talk to the new head football coach of the Indiana Hoosiers about spring football, camp, and getting ready for the first game against Ball State. He'll have a sit-down conversation with standouts Jeff Thomas and DeMarlo Belcher. We'll wrap things up with a quick look at the day that the Hoosiers spent with the Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington. Before we have a Q&A with the head coach, here's a quick look at what the Hoosiers have been up to in camp. You were named head football coach in December of last year. Now you've had a chance to transition here to Bloomington. Thoughts after the first 7-8 months or so?
Well, it's been hectic, Jeremy. A lot going on, transitioning family, getting staff together, getting to know our players, finishing up a recruiting class. But as hectic as it's been very positive. I think our players have adapted to us well. I think our staff has blended in not only to our football program, but the athletic department within the community. Our families are settled, and I don't know if there's a lot of days we'd want to do over. It's been a great start.
A lot of people are excited about you being the head football coach, but many fans are also very excited about the staff that you've been able to assemble. Talk about your philosophy on what you were looking for in different position groups as far as getting coaches and how you were able to pull it all together.
Well, Jeremy, a lot of credit needs to start with the administration, because I think they had the vision to realize that it's not just a head coach, it's a group of guys. And they were able to come up with resources, with funds that gave me salary structure that I could entice some quality coaches to come in. Think of our 5 weight coaches, 9 assistant coaches, and myself. Of the 15 guys that really work full-time with our team, 13 have Big Ten ties. So again, we're not trying to get everyone from the Big Ten, but with Nebraska coming in, a couple guys from that program, a lot of guys in the Midwest region, it kind of worked out that way. Started defensively with where I wanted to go first, with my being an offensive person. I felt I needed to have great leadership over there. I didn't want to micromanage or oversee that on a daily basis. Brought in Doug Mallory, Father Bill, great coach here. Mike Eckler, those two had worked together, both as co-coordinators here. But I think they both bring a lot to the table, a package they know, a package that they're familiar with. Mark Hagan, former Indiana great. Brought him back from Purdue and up there for 11 years, but getting Mark down here is a great add. Recruiting in-state ties is awesome. Brett Dearson was working at Nebraska with Coach Eckler, and then Brandon Shelby, a corners coach that played at Oklahoma and G8 for us down there. So 5 guys that have synced together well defensively. I, being the head coach, still have an offensive background, working some with offense. We got Rod Smith and Greg Fry, both from Michigan. A lot of our offensive structure came out of the Rich Rodriguez thought process when he was an assistant at Clemson. So those 2 guys have similar thoughts. Kevin Johns was at Northwestern with me, another guy that's very similar to my background, and then Deland McCullough that played for us. So I hadn't worked with all these guys together, but there's a lot of continuity. It worked out great, and a great strength staff. Mark Hill, Will Peoples, Armand Satchel, Josh Eitzen, Rick Dennison. It's a great weight staff. So very, very pleased with our staff. I think it's awesome.
One of the first things one would notice watching spring practice was the increased tempo of play and how much the guys were moving at all times. How have the players adapted to that?
I think good. At the same time, Jeremy, we only get so many hours on the field. So sometimes we're just trying to get as many plays as we can in a short amount of time. A lot of times we have actually 2 practices going on at the same time just to get more repetitions. The more guys play, the better they get. So as we get into games, we'll package our offense with our defense, and will we end up playing as fast as we practice? That's to be determined with execution. But the best way to improve your skill is to play the game. And the more you play, the better you get. So one of our ways of doing that is just to have a very upbeat, up-tempo practice with a lot of reps. The more reps you get, we think the better each player and the team's going to be.
One of the toughest things probably in becoming a head football coach of a team that you weren't coaching at previously was to one, hold on to the recruits who had already committed, and two, hit the recruiting trail and establish those ties. It looks like that's going really well.
It's going good. I mean, you know, a lot of guys had committed. We lost a couple. We added a couple with the recruiting class. Our freshman class, it appears to be a very solid class. Now, we've yet to play a game with those guys, but they were the first guys that were recruited to this building when it was completed. From the first day they showed up, they saw the new weight room, our new academic center, the new offices, the new facilities, and it's a very, very talented group. Most of those guys were committed before we got here, so it wasn't like these were, quote, the new coach and the new recruits, but they were recruits that were recruited to this facility. That being said, with the facility and the change, we have carried it over with a lot of momentum. We put 7 guys internally in the state of Indiana, recruiting all of the Midwest. You know, the best thing about Indiana, we're right in the middle of Big Ten. So we can get to every Big Ten state, every Big Ten city easy, and I think we can recruit those cities well. So we're working from St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, all of Ohio, Louisville, Kentucky, our state. We're working those states really, really hard.
In a period of transition, taking over as a head football coach, help from leaders from the previous team has got to help out. And guys like Will Maddie, Jeff Thomas, DeMarlo Belcher, 2 of those guys you're going to talk to later in the show, talk about how important those senior leaders have been in helping the team move forward.
They've been great in preseason. We really challenged those guys in the spring and they were so used to, you know, previous coaches, previous ways. And ultimately, though, you know, as good as a coach might be, a team is as good as its players, and it's really as good most times as its senior leadership. And we were pretty direct and pretty demanding on our seniors through the off season, through winter and through spring and through summer. There was no sugar treatment because you're a senior. They were getting pushed to the max to do it the best. That being said, it was amazing at our captain vote we did for the first game to see what our votes were. A lot of diversity and a lot of disparity across the board from offense and defense. A lot of guys getting votes, which encouraged me because it made me think a lot of our players see a lot of seniors embracing our values. They've been great in practice. They'll have to be great this season for us to have a good year.
All right, we're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the different position groups and preview the upcoming contest against Ball State on The Kevin Wilson Show. Welcome back to the Kevin Wilson Show. Coach, we were just taking a look coming out of the break of the Oklahoma drill that you guys were doing both in, actually in camp. Talk about the increased physicality of the team and how they're adapting to a more physical style of play.
Well, again, to me, that's one of the keys to being a good team is you're physical. You're physical at every position. Even a quarterback who's not maybe going to run over someone has a presence that commands he's in charge and he's a leader, and there's a physical style of your play. And I think it starts with the coaching staff. We try to embrace that. We got to practice smart. You know, we can't go through and just cheap shot and get pile-ups and get injuries, but you've got to hit. You got to learn how to strike. You got to learn how to play with leverage. You got to learn how to get off blocks. You got to learn how to tackle. You got to learn how to be physical with the ball in your hand. So without beating our team up, we've tried to do as many combative, physical type clean drills as we could. In the Oklahoma drills, it's meat and potatoes. It's one-on-one. Stay on a block, get off a block, make a tackle. It's good football.
Well, let's start with the secondary. What have you seen out of them both in spring football and in camp heading into the first game?
I think we've kind of settled into our secondary spots with Greg Heben, Lawrence Barnett, and Yada Kyles playing at corner. Our safety position with Jarrell Drain, Chris Atkins, Donnell Jones. We got some young guys. You'll see Mark Murphy and a couple freshmen, Kenny Mullen possibly in the mix. Nickelback, Donnell Jones is doing a great job as a strong safety, hybrid linebacker safety for us. It's pretty good, but seeing a lot of activity. We need to tackle well in space. Be interested in getting games. Again, in practice, we pick our spots of when it's full go. I think we've improved our coverage. I think we're well coached with Coach Mallory and Coach Shelby. Be interested in all these games, how we come out and execute and play there.
Moving on to the linebackers, got to be excited to have players the caliber of Jeff Thomas, Leon Beckham anchoring that group.
Yeah, those two senior guys are 2 of our team leaders, have done a great job. We need our young players, freshmen, and some young guys to bring it on so we can have some good depth and good special team play. But Jeff Thomas and Leon do set a standard for our defense and how to practice, and they've had a great preseason.
The tackles and ends, the defensive front, how does it look so far?
You know, pretty solid. It'd be interesting as we play early how we go. I think the D tackle spot, we'll go 4 or 5 deep there with some pretty solid players. And I think, you know, in particular, you know, Adam Raplogle, Mick Mincer have been very good, but we'll be 5 deep there. We'll rotate a bunch of bodies. We'll have guys that go out first. I don't necessarily think they're starters. We'll play 4 or 5. Same at defensive end with Fred Jones, Darius Johnson, Ryan Phillips. I mean, we've got some depth there. We'll play 8 or 9 defensive players up front so we can keep fresh and stay physical throughout the game, but also throughout the year.